That's how I was able to get this letter. It's not a letter that was given to me on request from the Chief of Staff. No, I got it through the sources. And the Chief of Staff cannot deny it, or the Minister cannot deny it, because it's got his signature, it's a legitimate letter. IDEC has that because they called for the docket informed by this letter, so they can't deny the letter. It is part of what we uncover as we investigate. All these strange things that are happening, that takes us to us reaching the conclusion that is part of a bigger plan of things. So these are puzzles that we are trying to put together as we're investigating. Because on the same page, Commissioner 283, you have both emails that are reflected there. The one at the bottom comes from Mr. Adams, and look specifically at the time. It is 8:21:01 in the morning of the 1st of November 2024. It is directed specifically to the minister himself, not to Nkabinde, this one. The one I referred to earlier was directed to Nkabinde. This one is strictly to Edward Senzo Mchunu, his email address, the minister directly. I said earlier there were other emails that followed thereafter to Nkabinde, but this one was specific. It went straight to the minister at 8:21 in the morning. On the same date, on the 1st of November, a couple of minutes later, less than an hour, the Chief of Staff at 9:04 in the morning, the Chief of Staff forwarded this complaint to the National Commissioner's Office. So I would have expected the very same minister to ask those questions, Commissioner, and because the logic tells you, you open a case the day before and you're complaining today in the morning. So it means overnight there was an interception in your conclusion. I don't think it's a fair process, conclusion that Ms. Adams will have reached. But nonetheless, the minister did not ask Mr. Adams a question, neither the Chief of Staff. But what's interesting here, Commissioners, is that this email from the Chief of Staff to the National Commissioner's Office reads, and I want to quote it on record. Good morning, Major General Sebola. As I said, Sebola is at the office of the National Commissioner. But the Chief of Staff says, the ministry has received this complaint from the Member of Parliament. In order for the ministry to respond accordingly, please finish this office with a report in responding to this complaint and the details of the investigating officer who was assigned to investigate these cases. Your report is expected on Monday, the 4th of November at 1500 hours. So this is the timelines that are given by the Chief of Staff, who says the ministry. I'd like to believe perhaps the Chief of Staff will have received directive from his boss, which is a minister in this regard. But then we come back into what we're talking about, then becomes strange that after the 4th of November, timeline has been met by inspectorate, although the minister received it on the 5th. The very same Chief of Staff then writes a letter under the minister's signature, heading ministry, cover letter, and he sends this thing to IDEC.
Now, do you know whether or not there have been any engagements with the police from the affected police stations, which is Cape Town and Orlando, in respect of these case numbers?
What I am privy to, Commissioners, is that Gerald Jacobs' office, after receiving this docket as part of the investigation, they were approached by IDEC requesting that they hand over those case dockets of Gauteng in the main, and Gerald Jacobs refused to hand over the dockets. And they then, IDEC wrote to a head of crime detection in the police, it is Lieutenant General Sentumuli. They wrote to her requesting the dockets. And she then contacted Gerald Jacobs and asked Gerald Jacobs to release the dockets to IDEC. Now, IDEC is led by an individual, and it is an entity of the NPA as a prosecution. The inspectorate, the detective services is led by individuals, which is part of the South African Police Service as a department which is led by the National Commission. But the correspondence from the NPA to the police does not include the people in charge of the two entities. It includes the head of IDEC and the head of investigation. So the correspondence between the two and the authority is granted by the police detectives and instructing inspectorate to release the docket, and then dockets were then taken by IDEC. To date, those dockets are sitting with IDEC.
I see in your state.
Laborious activity was then engaged in. Do you want to comment on that, General?
Commissioner, my comment might be to some degree perhaps being biased, because I'm the one that is combing through all what is happening. Perhaps I must indicate to the Commissioner that what led us to able to comb through all this what has transpired is in two phases. One is information I get through my sources within IDEC that there is activities that are happening with IDEC that are not in line with what the purpose of the formation of the entity is. And that there are two structures within IDEC. There's a good structure that deals with the Zondo Commission, and there's another structure that is malicious, that is used as a weapon to further disrupt the criminal justice system operations. So I get that through my sources within IDEC. That's on one. That's how I was able to get this letter. It's not a letter that was given to me on request from the Chief of Staff. No, I got it through the sources. And the Chief of Staff cannot deny it, or the Minister cannot deny it, because it's got his signature, it's a legitimate letter. IDEC has that because they called for the docket informed by this letter, so they can't deny the letter. It's a picture that we started picking up. That is on one side through the information. But secondly, Commissioner, when we see the disruption of the investigation of the Gauteng counterintelligence operations, we then begin to ask ourselves why this is happening. What is much talked about in the media that is not known is the arrest of General Khumalo. So we have this arrest. When this arrest happens, it literally means this project must stop. This investigation of this organized crime must stop immediately because the people are arrested.